Angle snapping is nothing new. It's been a feature around for longer than a decade across multiple different mice, but for something so old, there's not much talk about it. The only videos out there are either to explain what angle snapping is, or frame the feature as aim assist, which is definitely what it's not. And all I could uncover from Googling were people insistent that this feature was not meant for gaming. Well, I'm game. I always loved playing games in unique ways, whether it would be playing Valorant with a tablet or playing full area in 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐝. Let's test out this feature that seemingly most users on the internet disagree against. Angle snapping. It's a feature that makes your mouse movement sharper when you move in a straight line. The best way I can show you is through MS Paint. These are lines drawn with angle snapping off. You can see that my attempts have little bumps and curves because of human error.
Personally, I would draw lines way straighter than these.
Now this is with angle snapping on. A minor difference, but you can see very clearly how the curves are eliminated from my lines.
Now, that's a lot better.
Now you can kinda guess why something like this can be useful in certain games such as Valorant or CSGO. Most of the aim in these games come from horizontal movement and crosshair placement, which usually require a crosshair to be on the same vertical axes. The mouse I'm using to test this feature is the ROG Harp Ace Aim Lab Edition. I am in a paid collaboration with ROG, but I'm actually extremely proud to announce this, as I've seen the work they have put into this mouse that was made for all things gaming. While ROG and AimLab were developing this mouse, pro aimers went through 10 different prototypes before placing faith on this shape. In addition to this thing is only 54 grams, but still has everything you would want in a mouse, like wireless, exceptional clicking latency, and a software that lets you control pretty much everything from LOD, pulling rate, etc. It's been my weapon of choice, and I hit a recent peak on Valorant, so you can tell I really do trust this little guy. And in full disclosure, I have been climbing with this setting enabled. So, is it noticeable? Yes, it is noticeable. If you look at where I tend to aim on these deathmatch clips, the crosshair stays very consistently horizontal with head level. My aim felt less wild and less flashy, but extremely consistent. To test this, I also tried deathmatch with the setting off, and I ended up with a more sporadic style of aim because I would have to readjust my crosshair placement more. Without angle snapping, I was like Russell Westbrook, flashy, quick, but prone to many mistakes. But with angle snapping on, I was Tim Duncan, fundamentally strong and very consistent. Doesn't this mean that angle snapping is busted? I needed to try this setting a lot before coming to a valid conclusion, so I collected a lot of gameplay, and here's what I found.
Wait, short.
Oh my god, great flanking. Look, fast flanking. Crazy race.
I'm on your ball.
Which is like 2 games, but you're still good at ball.
Yeah?
Last player standing.
Heaven.
1 enemy remaining. 30 seconds left. Spike planted. 1 enemy remaining.
Which was
Nice. I have 1 up.
One enemy remaining.
On site, late 80. One tower, one site. Last tower.
Nice, I get less, bro.
Dude, what the fuck, bro? I'm gonna flash out again. Nice.
One enemy remaining.
quick.
Drop, I think.
I killed the guy. Drop.
Oh, okay.
One enemy remaining. One enemy remaining.
So as I mentioned before, I felt like I had more consistent and sharper crosshair placement. It's almost that I trusted myself a little more with every swing, that I would whiff less because my crosshair would always be pretty level. It felt like a safety net, which gave me more confidence. The setting also only really triggers when I make right angles on the X and Y axis, which is why it isn't actually that useful in games with a lot of elevation or different angles. Apex didn't feel very different with this setting, with the exception of when targets were not jumping around and just moving sideways, and the setting only activated with certain jumps on Osu. However, because it doesn't actually activate that much, there aren't too many cons to using this in my opinion. Elevation changes in maps and depth of field may be obvious problems, but I figured they aren't actually too troublesome as long as you are conscious of the elevation changes like in this clip. The angle snapping setting in my software is also preset to not be too powerful, so micro adjusting to these is still quite easy. So what about spray patterns? And finally, is it allowed? I don't get a crazy advantage nor disadvantage when I use this setting, and I spoke to a Riot employee friend who does work on Vanguard's anti-cheat, and he says it's fine to use. For me personally, as an experienced aimer of a couple years, I think this setting isn't crazy beneficial to me. After using this setting for a month, I was still able to aim at my usual level with and without this setting. Although I did improve in my aim training scores and ranks in games, this was 100% due to me learning more from playing more, not angle snapping. This setting has the most potential on games like Valorant and CS, and I did notice a difference with my aim in these games when it came to pre-aiming angles and flicking to targets on the same plane. On one hand, you could argue that playing without this is better, as you want to keep movement between your hand and your aim as raw as possible. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to try this setting, and if you find that it helps, why not use it? Make sure to follow my Twitch and Twitter so you can watch me experiment with more stuff, and take care.